Hello everyone, in this video I will be reviewing the brand new Moondrop X Crinacle Dusk using the virtual in-ear headphone listening test method outlined by researchers at Harman International. Okay, so let us first get into some objective talk about this IEM first. So using Super Review's measurement, we have the Truth Ear Nova with the foam tips versus the Moondrop Dusk 2. Or just the Dusk now, and you can see compared to the Harman target, they're both very compliant up to 1 kilohertz, at least when matched at around like 500 hertz. But from there you can see that the Dusk 2 starts to nosedive in the ear gain region, and for this reason it comes across a bit recessed, and just other than that, it's like just generally pretty recessed. Below 10 kilohertz, there's no issue really other than it being recessed in that region. But at around 16 kilohertz, you can see this massive spike here. And this only really comes across in cymbals, I'd say, as far as natural instruments go. You can hear that there's just too much wispiness there. Like, for example, in this song Fourth Planet by Enhato, you can see that there's a lot of energy in this region in the song, and it just comes across as too much. And if you look at the DSP profiles of the Dusk versus the analog tuning, you can see that there's distinctly a notch filter at around 14 kilohertz, and the problem with this is that this is a high Q artifact in the treble, and considering that this occurs above 10 kilohertz, this is going to vary a lot with insertion depth and listeners. So to just put an EQ filter to cut this peak is not going to actually work. And just looking at the filter, you can just compensate for the analog tuning of the Dusk and look at the Harman tuning, for example, and you can see that there's just the notch filter at 14 kilohertz and some other general changes. But yeah, and apparently also the free DSP can't do negative preamp, so you have to only use negative gain on the filters, and it's questionable if it's going to be loud enough for that reason, but I don't know. And so yeah, I've EQ'd the Nova to the Dusk 2 using Super Review's measurement, and you can see what it looks like here. And yeah, so just looking at the Harman predicted preference rating of the Dusk 2 in the analog preset, you can see it gets a 74 out of 100. I mean, it's a C grade, but it's not a completely end of the world score, considering that it doesn't account for over 10 kilohertz anyway. But if you look at the default DSP preset, which Crinacle says is supposed to be 5% better, it scores a 67 out of 100. And Crinacle said that the default DSP profile is supposed to be 5% better than the analog tuning, but as you can see here, its score is 7 points lower and is 10% worse overall. And yeah, so when I was listening to both of these, that reflected what I thought too. It definitely sounds much worse in the default DSP profile. I mean, I'm not going to listen to the Harman profile because like the only real difference is that there's going to be a massive like peak in the upper treble with the Harman tuning, I guess, and it's just not going to be as refined as the Nova. And even then, with the Harman tuning, the Dusk 2 scores lower than the Nova, even though it's within the margin of error. But interestingly enough, if you extend the model to 20 kilohertz, which I'm not saying you should do, you can see that the Nova scores much higher than the Dusk. Like, for example, it has like I think 79 out of 100, whereas the Dusk 2 in the Harman preset with the score extending to 20 kilohertz gets like a score in the 50s. So the model doesn't include up to 20 kilohertz, but after 10 kilohertz, the performance of the Dusk 2 is really horrible. And that was just an image of Crinacle's measurement, which also has questionable accuracy in the upper treble for his 711 coupler. But the Dusk 2 is just not good at all in the upper treble. It's too recessed in the ear gain region. But anyway, objective talk aside, let's get into some listening, okay? So I'm going to start off by blind testing the Dusk in the default preset versus the Truth Ear Nova. Okay, not sure what I have selected here. Let's play, let's start with Asymmetry by Real. The upper treble is just clearly too much, and the vocals are not coming across with the proper power and energy. There's just this wispiness. Yet, like, The sibilance is really high. It's not necessarily sibilance, it's just like these artifacts which are like extending to the upper treble. Yeah, at like 20 seconds when this song really starts going, it's just unbearable. And just looking at this now, it confirmed, yeah, it is the Dusk. And this is just not high performance at all. Okay, round 2, randomly selected, the Nova versus the Dusk. Okay, we'll go with Fan by Girls' Generation. The vocals are coming across really cleanly here. The bass sounds good. Just sounds really nice and level. The treble is nice. Yeah, so excellent replay there. Let's see what that was. Okay, I mean, as expected, that was the Nova with the foam tips. Okay, let's go round 3. Okay, randomly selected. Let's go with Europa by Girls' Generation. The vocals are just too far back, and the upper treble is coming through clearly in the song, but it's not correct in level. It's just like, it's higher up than the vocals are, and it's just not sounding correct. So let's see what this is. This is the, yeah, it is the Moondrop X Crinacle Dusk as expected. Okay, we'll do one more round of these two in the comparison. Okay, we'll go with Lupin by Kara. Nice power to start. Great vocal clarity. Yeah, I mean, really powerful. Excellent replay. I mean, there's no question in my mind that's obviously Nova. Checking again, yeah, that's the case. Okay, so as you can see here in blind listening, the Nova absolutely destroys the Moondrop X Crinacle Dusk in the analog preset, as you should expect from the difference in the Harman predicted preference rating. But now we'll test the Nova with the foam tips versus the Dusk in the default preset. Okay, randomly selected one, so we'll start with Naniro Stage by Denonbu. It's like weirdly bloated and harsh. Like, I don't know in what world he thought this was 5% better than the analog tuning. It's clearly worse. It's way too bloated, and there's just no energy at all in the vocals, and you can still hear the same treble harshness. It's garbage. Okay, checking the tuning, and yeah, I mean, it is the Moondrop X Crinacle Dusk in the default DSP tuning, and I mean, this is the Nova with no EQ, and it's beating this IEM with the supposed amazing EQ. It's a complete joke. Randomly selected again, we're going with round 2. Let's see, what song should we go with? We'll go with J-O-U by Hachio GP. Vocals are coming across cleanly. You know, this is like actual music playback, so checking now, and yes, of course it is the Truthier Nova. And I mean, the Dusk is a complete failure. I mean, this is garbage, really. We'll do, I guess, one more song just to see. Okay, randomly selected, but let's go with let's see, what song should we test here? Let's go with something really resolving, I guess, to put the final nail in the coffin, maybe. I don't know, but I'm not sure which one I've selected here, so it's hard to say. Maybe it could be the Nova, but yeah, I guess this is not the most resolving song, whatever, but we'll go with Mr. by Kara. Okay, I mean, it sounds excellent to start, so this is obviously the Nova. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, but okay, we'll try to do it again. Randomly selected, we'll go with One Step Closer by Very Good. Okay, it sounds fairly normal at the start. Could be either one. Like, it's so bloated in the, like, lower bass region. And, I mean, you can clearly hear it's just not, it's too sharp in the treble. It's not, like, unbearably harsh, but you can tell. I mean, even the score is like a D grade, right? I mean, looking at it now, it's obviously, yeah, the Dusk in the default DSP profile, but I mean, I guess that's the end of this review. In the analog tuning, it's not horrible, but it's nowhere close to the Truthier Nova without EQ, and even with EQ in the default preset, it's actually worse than the analog tuning of the Dusk 2, but it's a complete joke of an IEM, really. I mean, all this wait for what? The IEM is garbage. Really, just get the Truthier Nova with the foam tips. It's less than half the price. I think it's like, I think you can get like 3 of these now for maybe a little bit over the price of the Dusk 2, and you're getting much higher sound quality. And if for whatever reason you want to use the free DSP cable, you can just get that with the Nova, and it'll still be much cheaper than the Dusk, and you're still getting much better acoustical properties than you are with the Dusk. But who knows, maybe with the foam tips, the Dusk 2 might not have this huge treble peak, and it could actually be acoustically good, but at least the way it's advertised and the measurements people have shown are complete garbage. And yeah, this IEM has flopped on arrival. It's just a horrible IEM. That's it for this review.